This is the DJI Phantom 4 Pro, and I have to admit it makes me a bit grumpy, and here is why. Hi, I'm Grant, and this is the DJI Phantom 4 Pro. This is my tried and tested DJI Inspire 1 Pro with the X5 camera. I wanted to put the two up against each other and see how they stack up, and perhaps let you know why this thing is making me a bit grumpy. I'm going to divide this video into three sections. I am going to look at the camera performance of the two drones, which is my main concern being a video guy. I'm going to look at the flying characteristics and also, or finally, the cost comparison. First up, camera performance. The DJI Phantom 4 Pro has a 20 megapixel camera with 100 megabits per second data rate. And that right there is a clue as to why it's making me a bit grumpy when I compare it against my trusty Inspire. My DJI Inspire 1 Pro with the X5 camera is a 16 megapixel camera, and it only has 60 megabits per second data rate. The much newer P4 Pro camera also has a native 24mm lens, which I actually think is a much nicer lens for aerial photography and video. And it can also shoot in higher frame rates. It can shoot 60 frames a second at 4K, which my Inspire 1 cannot. However, the X5 on my DJI Inspire has changeable lenses, which means that I can change the focal length on this camera. For example, I can change it, I have three lenses, and I can change it between 35mm equivalents of 24, 50 and 90mm, which gives you a lot more flexibility. It's actually quite hard to do unbiased side-by-side comparisons, so what I did is I sat both the cameras down, I locked off their exposure to manual exposure, manual white balance, and put them in the same recording rates, and shot some video and stills footage. And here is that comparison footage. To my eyes, I have to say that shooting video on the P4 Pro comes out on top, especially if you're shooting in the 1080 format still, as the 1080 format on the X5 is actually a bit mush. I also love having the option of shooting higher frame rates in both 1080 and 4K, which can sometimes smooth the footage, so that is a win for the P4 Pro. I shoot a lot of real estate video here in my local market, and often when I'm shooting video, the realtors will often get me to shoot drone stills in the air. So I shot drone stills with both the P4 Pro and the Inspire 1, and to be honest, there was very little in it when running them both with the 24mm lenses. However, the ability to change lenses on the X5 camera on my Inspire, I would actually give the win to the X5 on the Inspire. First up, the most noticeable flying characteristic is battery time. As I said in my previous video comparing the Inspire 1 with the new Inspire 2, and that is the Inspire 2 has a lot more battery time. The P4 Pro is fantastic battery time. I was getting 20 plus minutes in the air when flying with the wee P4 Pro, whereas when I'm flying my Inspire 1 with the heavier X5 camera, I'm down to about 10 to 12 minutes. In fact, it got to the point sometimes with the P4 Pro, I'd got up, I'd buzzed around, got all my shots, and I still had battery time to burn. Whereas when I'm using this, I have to get up, which is not a bad thing. I've got to get up, get the shots that I need, and then get out of there. That is a win for the P4 Pro. I never got to fly the P4 Pro in really windy conditions, and often weight is stability, whereas I have flown my Inspire 1 in some really rough and windy conditions, and it handles it really well. However, saying that, the P4 Pro handles and flies really well. In fact, one of the acid tests I like to do, or when I put up a drone, is to try and get one of the more difficult shots, especially if you're shooting real estate or circling around an object, is the slide and pan shot, and I found it actually surprisingly easy to do with the P4 Pro. In fact, I found it easier to do with the P4 Pro than I do with my Inspire 1. Also, I know a lot of people will say that the new P4 Pro has the intelligent flying modes, which my Inspire 1 doesn't. So I tested one of them on that previous shot I was talking about, the slide and pan, and I used the circle point of interest where I set it up to do a shot around this building here whilst tilting the camera and panning the drone, and it worked surprisingly well. So that is a win for the P4 Pro. Obstacle avoidance. The P4 Pro now has 5-direction obstacle avoidance. Now, I'm not a big fan of automatic this and automatic that, and I think, or personally think, that the biggest single method of obstacle avoidance is skilled flying. However, saying that, I'm sure like most people, I've had close encounters with my Inspire where, for example, I was backing up to get a shot and I'd backed up over one tree and I didn't realise there's even a taller tree behind it. So if your obstacle avoidance can avoid even one crash or one bingle, then that is a win, and I will take the obstacle avoidance if it is on offer. So a win for the P4 Pro. At the time of recording this video, the P4 Pro is currently retailing for US $1,500, whereas the Inspire 1 Pro with the X5 and lens is retailing for US $3,400. In fact, I actually paid a lot more for my Inspire 1 Pro and lenses because I obviously purchased it more than a year ago when the prices were a bit higher. So the obvious question there is the Inspire 1 Pro with the X5 camera worth twice as much as the P4 Pro? Now, I'd have to say, no, it isn't. And that leads me nicely into a couple of other points to finish off. My Inspire 1 Pro is the 2 remote system, which means that I can then give another remote to someone else who can operate the camera gimbal while I just concentrate on flying the drone, which actually is a fantastic way if you have the time and budget and manpower to do. That is a fantastic way to get critical video shots. Another point to make, and this is a bit more subjective, but this is what I believe, and this is my opinion. I am talking about paid professional jobs here. If you turn up, well, let me cut to the chase here, size matters. If you turn up to a paid professional job just with your wee Phantom, you whip that out to do the job, even though it's more than capable, as opposed to turning up with a larger Inspire and cases and lenses, people will perceive more value for the bigger equipment, and that is kind of just the way it works, or what I've experienced anyway. So they might look at your Phantom and go, well, my cousin's brother's got one of those Phantoms, why don't I hire him for a fraction of the cost that I'm hiring this guy with all this big fancy equipment? Size matters, so that's kind of a win to the Inspire for professional jobs. I've also done jobs where, because I have the 2 remotes, I can give the director who's on the job or the client on the job, I can give them the other remote with the monitor, and they can see what I'm doing, and they love that. They love the ability to have, they can direct using that monitor, or just to see what I'm shooting, to give me tips or saying what they like or don't like. So that's a bit of a win to the Inspire 2 remote setup. However, and there always seems to be a however in this video review, often if I'm doing real estate jobs, the client is not with me, he sends me out, or the realtor or the client sends me out by myself, there is just me there, and I would say that is the winner for that job. So in conclusion, I think you can now see why I have spent a lot of money on my Inspire, and I'm a bit grumpy with the new P4 Pro. Bang for buck, I would say that the Phantom 4 Pro is actually the best drone on the market. It is a remarkable piece of kit. It is actually quite amazing to see how fast drone technology is moving. Anybody want to buy a second-hand Inspire 1?